So, a big question that I get frequently is how to build your photography clientele, especially when you're first starting out with photography. And to answer that question, I'll kind of explain how I go about building up my clientele when things get a little bit more slow. And it's actually the same way I went about building my clientele when I first got started out. And the way I go about this is I try to serve the person who already serves the person I would like to serve. So let me explain. When I first got started out, I was running into a very similar problem most photographers kind of run into. You kind of post on social media and nobody's really paying attention, and you promote that you're available to book, and everybody kind of gets it, right? And you're just kind of floating in a sea of obscurity, so to speak. No one's really paying attention. And in order to get out of that cycle and out of obscurity and get noticed by my local community, what I started doing was I started serving local businesses and I started adding value to other local businesses. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, you got to add value and then you're going to grow, and you got to add value and you're going to grow. But let me explain to you step by step what adding value has looked like for me. And it's produced really, really awesome results for me in my photography business. Now, for context, I've actually been a full-time wedding photographer since 2017, specializing in weddings as well as creative portraits. So here's what I would do to go about building clientele, and I actually still follow this to this day. Now, when I say I serve the person that already serves the person I would like to serve, I have to kind of think about what I'm offering as a photographer first. And as a wedding photographer and a portrait photographer, working with couples and working with people that are going to get married, I'm looking for a very specific demographic of people to work with. So in order to serve the person that already serves the person I would like to serve, the way I went about it was I found a local boutique in my area that was already serving young couples, couples that are recently married, working professionals, and things like that. But here's what I didn't do. I didn't just go on Instagram and DM the owner of the boutique, hey, do you want a photo shoot? No, absolutely not. That would have got me ignored. Here's what I did. I went to the boutique's website and I started making notes. I started making actual physical notes about their website. What was I taking notes about? Well, I'm glad you asked. I was making notes about what areas on their website were lacking visuals. A big thing that I noticed on their website was that they were using stock photography for the clothing that they were selling. And it was a little bit boring. It was a little bit cookie cutter, if you will, and they weren't standing out either. So I made a note about that. They need photos that are relevant and in the area that we're in. After that, I noticed that there was no professional headshot of the owner or any of the staff at that local boutique. So then I made another note. Hey, the owner needs headshots. The rest of the staff, they need headshots to represent themselves and so that they can look more professional and lively. So I'm writing this all down on my notes. After that, I went onto their social media pages. I started with their Instagram. And a big thing I noticed on their Instagram is that they were using the stock photography. Boom, making more notes. Went on their Facebook. They were doing the same thing. Boom, made more notes. After I did all of that, then I reached out to the owner. I sent them a message. I said, hey, I'm a local photographer in the area. And one of the things that I noticed about your website is that you're using a lot of the stock photography. I would love an opportunity to do a photo shoot with you, with your staff, and some local models that are willing to be on camera, have a fun time, do a photo shoot with all of your clothing that you offer in your boutique. And I asked if that would be something that would be valuable for her brand. She reached back and said, "Oh my goodness, I'd love to meet with you. Tell me more." And when I went to that meeting, of course, I brought my notes and I showed her step by step all of the ideas that I had to create pictures for her brand. And I'll tell you what, she actually got emotional and teary-eyed in that meeting. And she told me that she gets lots of photographers that DM her for photo shoots saying, "Hey, do you want to shoot?" And she told me that she's forced to ignore a lot of those because she doesn't want to put in the work because she's very busy operating and running a business already. And she told me that she wanted to move forward doing a photo shoot with me because I've put in so much legwork up front. Now, here's where things got really, really cool. So we already established doing a photo shoot with the owner, and we established doing a photo shoot with some of her staff. So that's 3 people. And then she wanted to do, how about 5 girls wearing different clothing? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. So then we found 2 more ladies in the local area that wanted to model and were willing to be on camera for the photo shoot. So now we're talking about 5 people to take photos of. Then we established that we wanted to do it in our local downtown. Well, what else do we know about photo shoots and ladies and doing things for, branding purposes? They're going to need somebody to do hair, and they're also going to need to do makeup as well. So now we've gone from 5 people involved to 7 people involved. All right, now we're already starting to grow a small local network right there. So by the time we get to the photo shoot, we have our 5 models, we have our hairdresser, we also have our makeup artist involved. We take the photos, and here's something really cool that happened during that photo shoot. We actually got stopped 3 separate times while we were doing these photos by different people around the downtown area. They said, "Oh, hey, like, what's going on here? Like, this looks like so much fun. Like, what's going on?" I introduced myself. I let them know I'm a local photographer. And guess what? They asked for information. So that's 3 different people during that photo shoot. And here's why that's so valuable for starting up as a photographer. It's really hard to get noticed on social media because there's so many people using social media. There's so many people posting, and there's just lots of noise, right? But when you make a personal contact with somebody, that really hits. That really makes a difference. After the photo shoot, I'd collected 3 contacts. I had worked with 7 people. Now we're talking about 10 total people that I can start following up with later after this project is over. Once the project ended and I edited all the photos and I sent her the photos as well, I actually went a step further and I printed out 2 or 3 prints for her that she can mount up in her storefront. And of course, she was over the moon about that. And she contacted me about a week, maybe 2 weeks later. She started using the photos on her website, started using the photos on her social media. She contacted me not long after saying, "Hey, James, we need another photo shoot. How much is it going to cost?" Big reminder here, that entire project was done for free. I was doing it for my exposure. Now, a lot of folks, will resist the idea of working for free, and that's okay. If you don't want to work for free, hey, don't work for free. But I have a saying, never underestimate the value of free. Because remember, I needed the opportunity to get in front of people. I needed exposure. And some folks will say, well, exposure doesn't pay the bills. But let me show you how that exposure did help me pay some bills. Because after that photo shoot, the owner wanted more sessions. And so I booked her more sessions. So that's one client. The two employees wanted photo shoots with their families. And then one of the models ended up being engaged, getting ready to be married in the following year. So she booked me for her wedding. And then the makeup artist and the hair artist had such a great experience working all together that they started passing me referrals and I started passing them referrals. So out of that one photo shoot, I ended up booking like 20 jobs afterwards. Let me be clear. This doesn't happen after every single free photo shoot that I do, but keep in mind from the beginning, I was serving the person who already served the person I would like to serve. So guess what happened when that boutique would have people come in and say, "Hey, I saw you through social media and we really like those photos. Who's doing those, by the way?" Well, then I would get another referral. And guess what happened when somebody was shopping through the boutique and said, "Hey, I really like that photo right there." Guess what the conversation would turn into? "Oh, well, here's the photographer that took that photo." And so I started getting more and more referrals just from this one local clothing boutique. Now, here's where a lot of photographers go wrong with this method of networking and growing and business development. Sometimes photographers will reach out to a really big box store. So if we're talking clothing boutique, I don't want you to send a message to H&M or like Forever 21 or something like that. No, you want to search and find places in your local area. A lot of times they're in your downtown area that are locally owned mom and pop shops, small brick and mortar places. 9 times out of 10, these folks are busy and they need visuals so that they can promote their brand. And if you go to their websites, you'll find that that is true. They need visuals so bad. So if you go on their website, you start making some notes, start planning out a photo shoot, and you give them a small offer to work for free in exchange for some promotion or sending each other referrals, that is a method that continues to work, especially if that place already serves the person that you would like to serve. Other times in the past that this has worked out really well for me is when I've done free work for hair salons or hairstylists. It's also worked really well doing work for a mechanic or an auto body shop. And it's also worked out really well when I've done free work for local barbers. A lot of times these businesses are already working with clientele that would be good candidates as clientele for me. And so by trading these services back and forth, or even just providing that free value where you kind of go out of your way to mark down and take notes on how these photos can be valuable, and you do the planning and you print out photos and you put them in their place of business, that can be so much more useful in growing your business than simply posting on social media that you're available for booking. I want to move on and talk about another way that this was very, very useful for me, because I didn't stop at only providing value to that business. I also use those photos for my own social media. I also use those photos for my own website. And here's how I did it, because one of the things that I try to avoid when I'm posting on social media is to hard sell my audience and hard sell the people that follow me on social media. Because here's the thing about having a photography business and having a photography social media. If it's clear that you're a photographer on social media, the one thing you don't need to hammer down is the idea that you're available for hire. That's kind of the one thing that people already know about you and people already know about me is that I'm a photographer available for hire. So, what can we do with these photos other than promote the idea that we're available for hire? Well, here's how I go about it. When I'm working with these folks and I'm working with businesses and I'm working with couples, one of the things that I like to do is really get to know the person that's in front of my camera. I like to ask them questions about what they're into, what they're doing, what their goals are, what they're aspiring to do, especially if they're business owners. And when I go back and I start talking about the photos and the photo shoot, I like to tell stories about the people that are in front of my lens. Now, here's why this is a pretty good idea. Because, like I said, folks already know that I'm a photographer, and folks already know that I'm a photographer for hire, right? But here's what they don't know. They don't know the goals and the inner working ideas of the business owner that I'm taking headshots of. Perhaps they don't know the history of the barbershop that I'm working with. Perhaps they don't know the timeline and the history of everything the hairdresser went through to become a hairdresser. And a lot of times these stories can be very interesting to read for other people, especially because we're growing a local network of people that are around us. So, as a photographer, you can actually start taking on the role of a local reporter, telling stories about other local people in your community. And those posts always tend to do a little bit better than the posts that I would do where I'm simply promoting myself, saying that I'm available for hire. So I want to pass the question to you. As you're building your photography business, what strategies for networking and business development and finding new clients, what methods have worked for you so far? Because for me, when I find other businesses that are already serving the clients that I would like to serve, I find a lot of success with that. And I want to encourage you because don't expect every single person to give you the time of day. When I tell you that story about the local boutique, that was probably the seventh or maybe eighth business I had reached out to. Most businesses, especially in the beginning, most businesses ignored my message or they saw it and they ghosted me, or maybe they even saw it, maybe they interacted with me, and then they stopped interacting with me. And I'll be honest with you, those moments, like there's no way around it. Those moments are very discouraging. They're not fun. You kind of feel ignored, you feel overlooked, and I'll be honest, it freaking sucks. I don't love when that happens, but there has to be some drive behind what you're doing. I was very, very resilient and very, very just disciplined about getting my name out there and wanting to serve my local community, get my name out there, get my photos out there. And my name did get out there and people did see me out in the local area doing photos, working. And I would have those in-person conversations where I would get to know people in the local community. I would get to know their stories. And then when you get to know their stories and you start promoting their stories, then more people would ask, like, hey, like, I want photos next. Like, what's the process like for booking? How much does it cost? And then next thing you know, there's all these people that want their picture taken, want their story told. And more people were coming to the page to read more stories about more people. And it kind of grows over time. But I want to give you some encouragement. Not every single person ever even looked at my message. And some people would look at my message like 3 months later. One person, it took 3 years before they responded to me. And I was already a full-time wedding photographer at that point. And, I had to let them know that I wasn't offering that for free in that moment. But if you're just starting out, or maybe things are a little bit slow, I'd encourage you to try serving the person that already serves the person you would like to serve. And moreover, never underestimate the value of free. Well, I'll talk to you soon, and I sure hope this helped. Bye-bye.